Narmer was born in This, or Thinis, a city near Abydos, which was an important center at the time. His life unfolded in an Egypt completely divided into two lands, Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north, in the Nile Delta region. These two lands would always be known as Upper and Lower Egypt, but at the time of Narmer's birth and upbringing, they were divided not only geographically, but also politically and administratively. The capital of Upper Egypt was in Hieroglyphic, while Lower Egypt was in Buto. Since the Naqada III period, circa 3300 to 3100 BC, the south had been increasingly exerting cultural influence over the north. This final phase of the pre-dynastic period was very violent. Surviving records depict battle scenes involving both people and animals, with conflicts between the armies of the two Egyptian regions and even with neighboring peoples such as the Libyans. Narmer's father was probably King Scorpion, king of Upper Egypt, who was associated with what is called Dynasty 0. This ruler is represented on a ceremonial mace head wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt. When Narmer ascended to the throne, he took the royal title Horus Narmer and led the military campaign that conquered the north, thereby unifying the two Egyptian lands, Upper and Lower Egypt, into a single state under his rule around 31 BC, marking the beginning of the First Dynasty in Egypt's long dynastic history. In the 3rd century BC, Ptolemy II Philadelphus commissioned Manetho, a priest from Sebennytos, to compile a list of ancient kings of Egypt. In his book Egyptiaca, he organized the reigns into dynasties and named Menes as the king who achieved the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. This name comes from the Egyptian royal lists as Mene, which Manetho rendered as Menes. This ruler is often identified with Narmer, or his successor Aha, and sometimes they are even considered to be the same person. Manetho's original work has not fully survived. Only fragments quoted by later authors remain. According to these sources, Narmer's reign lasted between 30 and 62 years. There is, however, consensus on the cause of his death. He was killed by a hippopotamus. Sadly, the circumstances are not detailed, but the hippopotamus was among the most dangerous animals in ancient Egypt and was known to attack boats on the Nile. Unfortunately, little is known about Narmer's life, in part because he is often confused with his successor, Aha. Still, 2 surviving stone artifacts give us a glimpse into how he led the campaign to unify Egypt and consolidated his power as monarch. One of these is the famous Narmer Palette, discovered in 1898 in a temple at Nesion, Greek Hierakonpolis. Though only 64 centimeters tall, it features carvings on both sides that provide evidence of the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. On one side, the king wears the white crown of Upper Egypt while striking down enemies with a mace. On the other, he wears the red crown of Lower Egypt, standing over defeated foes. The use of both crowns, symbolizing the two lands, shows that Narmer had achieved his goal of unifying Egypt and ruling over all its territory. The palette also displays a strong connection with the goddess Bat, an ancient cow deity associated with the sky, celestial bodies, and duality. She is depicted at the top of the palette. Later, Bat would be syncretized with the goddess Hathor. The second artifact is a ceremonial mace head, also found at Nejen, showing Narmer seated on a throne wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt. One scene represents the Sed Festival, a ritual of royal rejuvenation and world renewal performed by the First Dynasty kings and repeated every 30 years to renew the pharaoh's power. Another scene shows Narmer receiving war spoils, including oxen, goats, and prisoners. Narmer was not solely a warrior. He placed great importance on trade, which, along with agriculture, was vital to the kingdom's economy. A significant sign of this is his name inscribed on a rock wall in the Wadi el-Kash, along the trade route that connected the city of Gebtu, Koptos, in Upper Egypt to Qasir. During his reign, which extended until around 3075 BC, several expeditions were carried out, reaching southern Palestine and the Kingdom of Kush in Nubia, modern-day northern Sudan. He established the first southern boundary of his kingdom at Abu Elephantine, near the first cataract of the Nile. Narmer is also credited with founding the city of Men-Nefer, later known as Memphis, called the White Walled City. It would eventually become the capital of the Old Kingdom. Strategically located between Upper and Lower Egypt, it allowed the pharaohs to control both the Delta and the important trade routes to Syria and Canaan. It is also said that in this city, he ordered the construction of a temple dedicated to the god Ptah, the main deity of the Men-Nefer and one of the oldest gods in the Egyptian pantheon, revered since the end of the pre-dynastic period and patron of craftsmen. When he died, Narmer was buried in the royal necropolis of el-Kab in the region of Abydos, in a mastaba tomb with a rich funerary assemblage. Unfortunately, little of it survives today because the tombs were built with mud bricks, which have deteriorated over time in the desert. Mostly, only the two underground chambers remain where the body and burial goods meant for the afterlife were placed. Archaeologists have identified his tomb and labeled it B17 to 18. It was initially excavated by British Egyptologist Flinders Petrie and Emily Amelino. In the mid-20th century, Werner Kaiser identified it as the tomb of Narmer. That's it for today, but don't worry, we're just getting started. Thanks for joining this historical ride, and get ready for more fun facts and stories in the next video. See you soon, time travelers.